Former FDC party president Major General retired Muntu early this week announced that he will leave the largest opposition party. Addressing a news conference today, he revealed that he could no longer stay in a party blighted by factionalism and nitpicking. Amongst those who attended were MPs and other leaders of the FDC who share a kindred spirit. Yet his critics say he walked out on selfish interests because he lost the FDC presidency to Patrick Oboi Amuriat. Muntu promised to work within a rainbow coalition. Can this third force gain traction with Uganda's disenchanted masses and fence-sitters, or will his walkout alter his political epitaph? On the spot tonight is Gregory Mugisha Muntu. Retired Major General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, you're on the spot. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
It's been a busy day, hasn't it been?
Pleasure is mine to be here tonight.
Well, we're glad that you could come. Since your announcement, there's been lots of questions, and many questions still linger in the minds of many Ugandans out there. So hopefully tonight will be time to clarify and make clear a couple of things. For starters, you decided to quit this party, at least to what many have seen, after losing the presidency to Patrick Oboi Amuriat. And so the question has been, since you said that, look, it's because there were two sides within the party, those for defiance and those for party structure building. Why did you decide to quit the party after losing the presidency and perhaps not before, since this hasn't just begun?
The question is, why did I not leave in 2009? I lost to Dr. Chiza. Why did I not leave in 2010? I lost to Dr. Chiza. Why did I not leave in 2015? I lost to Dr. Chiza. So why should I all that time lose and not start any internal wars, work to maintain stability in the party? And now that I have left, just because I lost, they think that it's because of that reason. Why? Does that make sense?
If you had not lost the presidency to Patrick Oboi and you had been declared winner of the FDC, would you have quit the party?
You know, when I was in Fort Portal, during the consultative processes, I said, I thank God that I lost this election. Why do I say so? Because even if I was the party president, and I've told Honorable Oboi this maybe about twice, I said this fight is not going on in the party because he is the party president. Even if I had won, the battles will still be going on as they are. So the complication now would be what happens when you are the party leader, the battles are going on. I mean, it would be complicated.
What would you have done?
Well, let me tell you an actual fact for people who say that I have only talked about separation now after losing. 2015, I was the party president. And I recall very vividly, after recognizing that we had fought each other to a point of paralysis, the party was not moving forward, and we were not resolving the problems. So in a meeting of the party, a management committee, I told the colleagues that we are stuck. If we are not able to resolve these internal contradictions, let's work out a way of separating in a mature way.
Also, you wanted the separation to happen early.
Even in 2015, I raised this question. But of course, we deal with leaders who are dishonest, because those who were there, if they wanted to be honest, they would come out and give witness to that. So it's not only now that I've talked about this. I've gone through the process of doing consultations. It is not as if even the majority say that we should separate. No. There's a lot of contestation. There are those who say remain and fight from within so that we can take the flag. But I keep telling them, I was responding to the leaders wherever I would meet them, those who would be saying that. And in the whole consultative process, in about maybe 70% of the areas where we went, there are those who kept on saying, Muntu, don't leave. Remain, let's go down the grassroots, ensure that we influence the electoral processes down of the delegates so we can take the flag.
Why didn't you listen to them?
I keep telling them, look, it's not the flag. Muriat or Nandala, if the party remains in the state in which it has been with internal fighting, it will keep on holding the flag. It won't take anybody anywhere. And I would tell them, unless I hang around, just take the flag just for psychological satisfaction. Or to put on my CV and say, Muntu held the flag. It's not the flag that can take us to power. So it is the organizational capabilities that you build, the strength that you build, and then you put it behind the flag. How will you build that if you are involved in fighting all the time?
So if you say that even in 2015,
yes.
Even as party president,
yes,
you suggested that there gets to be a split. How about those who would think that as the leader, if that is a home, as leader of the home, yes, if there are certain children who are wayward, you don't send them away, or you don't say, okay, now let's separate. You try and cajole them and bring them together. So would that not be problematic for a leader to suggest?
Let me tell you, I tried the best I could to bring stability to the party, to unite it. I mean, look, like for example, when I appointed the leader of opposition, Wafula had never supported me, ever, in all the 4-5 elections I had ever run. I made him the leader of opposition. Why? Because I wanted to bring unity within the party. There were other leaders who were more senior. They had been there a longer time. That was his first time in parliament. But I appointed him because I wanted to create stability within the organization. But every major decision that we made, there's no major decision that we made without a fight. And I can tell you that sucks energies out of people. The advantage, I don't know why the FDC leadership right now isn't celebrating because of our departure. Because that's what they should do. Why? Because it gives the opportunity to the new leader to drive the party in the direction he wants to drive it without any resistance from within. I never got that opportunity. Every time we would be trying to make any major decision, it would be resisted. We would fight, and we would end up in the press and all over the place. We couldn't brand the party. We were in this very structure in the International Conference Center. When we launched the party agenda, our focus was market the party on the basis of what we stand for. What we stand for in agriculture, in education, in job creation, in youth activities, women activities, in good governance, foundation for the country. We wanted to go around the country and market that, so that would shift the perception in the public that FDC only stands for the removal of Museveni. We wanted to build our support base because of people being attracted to us because of what we stand for. Generally rebrand the party. We couldn't even do that, because there is no way you can communicate to a point where people trust you if you go and do whatever you do, and in the evening news, you're on TV quarreling, you're on radio quarreling. You cannot succeed.
Do you think you were resisted?
Now, that's why now I believe that Honorable Boy has got an opportunity to go ahead and do what he wants with the party, because he won't have the internal resistance that there was when I was the party leader.
Was this resistance only because of your methods of work, or do you think it was they were resisting Muntu the person?
I really don't want to go into some of those things, because even now, as we have separated,
I think it's important for reflection, so that, you know, going forward.
Things will just come with time. I don't want to, when you look at the way we have separated and the reason we are giving, it's one major reason of having, you know, internal contradictions based on different strategies. But there are many things I could go into. But see, the moment you go into the things that possibly even the public doesn't know about, then it generates more conflicts. And yet, to me, I think the main area of focus that we need to look at, because separation has happened.
And those are the areas also important
should
for
cry over spirit
accountability to your other members.
The leaders in Najara and Kumbi need to calm down. We all focus on the future. How do we now work together, even when we are separate? How do we work together in the larger opposition formation? Because if, like we were, unstable as we were, I kept on telling colleagues in the whole opposition, the other leaders, said, if FDC remains stable as we are, we will become a source of instability in the larger formation. Now that we are separate, we need to ensure that we forget what has happened in the past, focus on the future. The FDC leaders need to calm down. Some of the people, even on our own side, should not be sucked into counter responses which are negative if they are provoked, so that we create a state of stability in the whole opposition, and then we focus our efforts on the larger questions of how we can remove a dictatorship and manage power better.
General, do you think that working together will happen? And I saw you called for that at the press conference. You're saying, look, you want to work with the folks in the FDC.
Yes.
Will that working together happen now that the split has been fairly acrimonious, and you are saying, look, we are splitting because you have different methods of work, we have different ones, we failed to find a meeting point.
Yes.
So how will the meeting point come now that you're calling on them to work together with you?
Because we were inside, because they believe in methods of how to remove the dictatorship. We also believed in different methods, but in one formation. Now we can build around those strategies separately. But when it comes to focus on achieving common objectives of regime change and managing power better, we can work together. I don't see a problem in that. Unless they don't trust us. If they don't trust us, we're not going to force ourselves on anybody. We'll concentrate on the things we believe we can do and do them well, and then keep moving. We're not going to be distracted by whatever anybody else says.
Still on that point, General, if the working together could not happen within the ambits of the party, you're saying you have a different modus operandi, I have a different one, let's work together. If that could not happen within the party, how then do you expect that now you have separated your different entities, that can happen? Because the modus operandi remains different, and now they are on their own, you are on your own. How will that happen?
I don't see a problem with that. Because someone can say, I want to move in a Kamunye. Another one says, I want to go in a saloon car. And we are going to Jinja. The main purpose is to reach Jinja and do certain things in Jinja. You may even disagree on the routes. Someone says, I want to go through Mukono. Another says, I want to go through Kayunga. Only agree in meeting Jinja and do whatever you're going to do in Jinja.
But what you're going to do in Jinja, you want to do it together. So if you can't jail, you can't be able to do what you're going to do there together.
The point is reaching Jinja. If you say we want to reach Jinja, because like now, the question is how to remove the dictatorship, right? And how to manage power better. So you are building around defiance. Build capability. If you're able to remove the regime, you invite the rest of the opposition and they come. Who is going to refuse to go into power because it's been removed through defiance?
Would there be more fighting then?
If you are building around defiance, others are busy building, like for us who believe in building branch networks in the villages and upwards and branding the party to attract funds, attract good people. Why should there be a quarrel now in that case? Where would the quarrel come from? Because you are focusing your resources over your party in the defiance. The other one is focusing its resources around party development. So where should there be a source of, where would the source of quarrels be now?
One would think, because like you use the analogy of getting to Jinja, which is in this case removing President Yoweri Museveni, if there is no unity, as it were, before removing him, won't there be a lot more squabbles after removing him? Because now the stakes are a lot higher, and there's positions to scramble for state power and all these different things. Because truth be told, now there's not been so much, and with all due respect, there's not been so much to fight for. But you see, once President Museveni is removed by, what you're talking about, there's a lot more to fight for, isn't there?
Yeah, but that's why, we must learn from experiences. Definitely, it's not good that we didn't have the capability to solve these internal contradictions. But the reality is we must deal with the situation as it is, not as it ought to be. We must recognize that. But also, we must learn to develop an understanding that don't cry over something which is already inevitably gone. Like now, the party is apart. Should not go into that. It won't help anybody. We should look for the opportunities in that. For me, I see opportunities that we can focus our efforts, energies, and resources on what we believe in. Honorable Patrick Oboy can focus resources of the party, of FDC, and time and all that in what they believe in, without having anybody contradicting them. That's, I think, something that we should look at as an opportunity. I never got that opportunity we have offered that opportunity to Honorable Patrick. They can now concentrate on fulfilling what they have pledged to do. Recovering victory of 2016. They can't have anybody standing in their way. Build around defiance and take power through defiance. And invite the rest of the opposition, then we go there and do whatever would be needed to do. If they are not able to do that by 2021, then those who believe in going into elections had better be well organized and prepared to take out the regime through that path. My hope is that in the meantime, we should not quarrel, because I don't see any reason why we should quarrel.
You are one of the founding members of the FDC. You left the status quo together with a couple of other people and you founded the FDC because you together had certain ideals that put you together.
Yes.
Along the way, things have not worked out as you had hoped they would, and you have decided to take another direction.
Yes.
What happens if the new outfit, the new political entity that you're putting together, something similar arises? Because now you're speaking the same language like
Yes.
you were when you were starting the FDC.
Yep.
So what happens if that arises in the new entity you're putting together? Will you again say, okay, let's split again, and to what end? When does this end? When?
Let me tell you, if we don't develop capabilities and skills of managing contradictions, yes, that would happen, inevitably. I mean, we can, if we go there and mismanage things in the new party and we're intolerant, there are people who can decide to walk. And if they walk, you can't start, personally, if people walked, and if I was in leadership, like when I was the leader of FDC, if any people had chosen to walk, I wouldn't go fighting them. I would recognize their right to walk and they would walk. That's how things should be, the way I look at it.
So you say that folks in the FDC frustrated your plans even when you were still president to make things work, paraphrasing what you have been saying all this while. And some have continuously pointed the finger to retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. Do you blame him to any extent for all of this?
No, well, really, to me there was a fight between two strategies. Dr. Kizza Besigye shares the same strategy with the current party leader, because even the campaign was on the platform of only defiance. We believed in party development, build capabilities of a party, and you can swing those capabilities in any direction, whether it is defiance, whether it is going to an election. That's what we believed in. But the delegates chose the strategy of Honorable Oboy. So I cannot blame Oboy. The delegates voted him in. I recognize him as the party leader of FDC. I have no, at any point, ever even attempted to question his victory. So the delegates wanted what they voted for, the strategy they wanted, because they believed that we could regain our victory very fast. Two, they thought that the methods I was proposing were going to take too long. So I understand them. But also know that there are things which can work, I know there are things which can't work. So if we reach a point and say, okay, we seem not to be able to reconcile these two strategies, let's separate as we have. Why should we quarrel? I can't even understand that.
The Honorable Ali Salaso, who is one of the people you're closely working with, yesterday spoke to us, spoke to one of my colleagues, the story that we ran, and she said one of the reasons for the split, even dating back to 2015, as you alluded, was that Dr. Kizza Besigye had become a cult leader of the party, that he, not exact words, literally held the party in his hands and he swung it wherever he wanted to. Do you subscribe to that school of thought? Well,
now really they have a free hand, they can swing it wherever they want to go. We are not there. So at least nobody can use us as an excuse. If FDC doesn't take power, it can't be because we are there sabotaging it or standing in its way.
So do you then agree that he is partly, responsible for what's going on there, as Ali also says, that he has a stronghold?
There are many leaders. At least we vote. That's one thing I can tell you, we vote. So if the majority of the delegates vote in a certain direction, that's what happens.
I know
so
that
if delegates choose for a quick fix, then it's the quick fix that they should expect. I have no quarrel over that. I believe in people's choices. But I'm also a realist. If those choices don't come, I cannot blame one person. Then it means that there is definitely a situation where the majority of the leaders are not able to interpret a situation and understand it well.
I know that you have been and continuously reaching out to several leaders, you know, gathering their thoughts on what's going on and so on and so forth. Do you talk to Dr. Besigye? If so, what do you talk about?
Yeah, talk about.
When did you last talk to him?
I'm open. About in Ndinzi. Ndinzi was about a month ago, and I think 1 month ago.
What do you talk about? What are his thoughts about this that you've decided to do?
That one I didn't discuss with him.
What do you think is going to happen to the FDC? It's a party that you built from scratch, yes, together with those of you, the others that you started the party with. You have, yes, now left the party. What do you see happening ahead?
They have the very good opportunity to market themselves around, I think, one thing which most other parties have not had the benefit to enjoy. Internal democratic practice where people compete. We've competed 5 times. I've been in there. I've left my fingerprints all over the place in terms of internal democratic practices. If FDC is able to strengthen that and continue building on that, they've got an opportunity. They only have to study the situation as it is and in a scientific way and understand what requires to be done to rebrand, because I think it requires rebranding. Once they rebrand, then they can expand in the gap which exists, because definitely there is a gap in the political arena in this country. If they do that, they'll be fine. If they put their heads in the sand and continue fighting, you know, unnecessary battles, they can easily pay the price.
What's the price?
I mean, if you don't rebrand, because if you see the recommendation that we made or the analysis we made, the question I've been asking is that, is there a space within the political environment in the country? And if there is, then we would have to ask ourselves, including myself as an FDC leader, because I've been there for quite a while, would ask ourselves, how could there be that space and we would not expand into it? It would basically mean that there are things which we either did wrong or that we didn't do. And therefore it hindered our capabilities to expand into any space that was created. And I keep telling them, if there is no space, nobody should spend even one sleepless night. Why? Because if there is no space, even those of us who want to start, we cannot take off. Because starting a party and it grows does not depend on the subjective desires of those who form a party. Starting and growing can only be dependent on 2 things. 1, the objective conditions prevailing within a political situation. 2, the skills of the leaders who form a party. If you have both, you will grow. So if the objective conditions in the current political environment are that you cannot start any new formation, they should not be worried. We will not take off. So they would be quarreling for nothing. We'll just go there and go down and fizzle out.
You say
but
you want to focus
if the objective conditions are such that there is space there, we can start and expand. If FDC is able to understand the things that could be done for it also to expand into the same space, if it requires rebranding, let them rebrand. They can also expand in the same space. So I don't see why we are quarreling.
You say that you want to focus your energies on building structures.
Yeah.
And
one of the number of things.
Some people will say, and I'm sure you've heard these voices, that President Museveni has mastered the art of dealing with structured things that
Yes.
he can touch. They become easy targets. You've heard these voices.
Yes.
And so he can
Yes.
decimate them completely, buy them out and so on.
Yes.
You've interacted with people
Yeah,
and
if you don't count time, yes.
had all of this. So how do you plan on dealing with this?
If you don't count time, yes. I mean, if you spend all your time quarreling, how will you count time? If you focus on strengthening yourself, on immunizing yourself, on carrying out countermeasures, you'll succeed, you'll survive.
How do you hope to counter him? He has said before that he has the money. He
How many
has
places has he
said
put
that
money? He put money in
he
Kunjiri
has
with-
the army.
Just, you know, the biggest problem, at least one thing Museveni knows, is psychological warfare. Our people fall for everything that he designs. We are never able to counter him on that plane. How could we counter him when we are all the time quarreling amongst ourselves, which plays to his advantage?
Do you think that President Museveni can be ousted in an election? You have said before that your party's victory has been stolen.
Is he?
And you hope to participate in another election with him, do you think that he can be beaten in an election?
The human mind is a very complex thing. If in life, whatever endeavor you are engaged in, whether it's in business, whether it's in politics, whether it's in the army, wherever you are, if you let your mind tell you that whatever you are trying to engage in won't work, you will not proceed to look for ways of how to sort out whatever challenge you are meeting. So I never let myself fall in that trap. I get amazed when I hear leaders, national leaders, standing up and saying, that can't work. How can you say that? If people can go to the moon, if people can climb Mount Everest, if people can do inventions which are so amazing, how does that happen? It's just the mind. The moment you let your mind become your own impediment, you're not going to do anything.
So once the mind is set to saying the election cannot be stolen,
that's what happens.
What then are the practical things going to happen?
First, know that there is nothing that is impossible. Focus on building your capabilities. That's what you have to focus on. Because once you have the necessary capabilities, you can swing them in any direction. Even when you want to do defense, if you want to focus those capabilities in an election, do so. If you don't succeed, don't give up. Keep at it until you succeed. But if you say, that won't work, your mind goes to sleep. It's not going to start looking for all ways of how you can sort out that problem that you are faced with. How do we beat him in these elections we go to? We beat him in Ujiri, we beat him in Rukunjiri, we beat him in Jinja, we beat him in Arua. So if you do something on a smaller scale, look at what you have done that you can replicate on the national scale. Anyway, let's leave some of these things to time. Let those who have to do whatever they know best how to do, do them. And then we'll see how time judges all of us.
All right, let's take a quick break. NTV On The Spot continues in a bit. Do stay with us. You are still on the spot, and with us tonight is retired Major General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, formerly party president of the FDC, and he's now moving out to form a new outfit, which he says he will unveil on 25th December. So
No, not on. By.
By. So that will be a political party.
Yeah.
So what happens then in the case of members of parliament, as an example, who will say we want to go with you?
But we don't,
because the law does not allow, otherwise then they would have to relinquish their seats. Are they ready to do that?
We wouldn't encourage any member of parliament or mayor or LC3 chairperson
to join your
party.
LC5. I thought you're recruiting people into your party.
No, not to declare. I mean, not to declare and say, I have now joined this party. But not joining and not declaring is different from working with. Because you can work with.
How does that happen?
An activity in the constituency,
one ought to put money where their mouth is.
Yeah, because the environment in the country is such that the electoral system is so compromised. If we had clear, free and fair processes in which elections can be conducted, the best thing would have been people would cross and then we'll go for by-elections. But we can't risk that. Nor would I encourage anybody to do that.
Why wouldn't
so
you?
Because
remain general, is it not dishonesty on their part if they say Muntu is the right man to follow?
Yes.
Why don't they not pay the sacrifice and say, okay, I'm willing to relinquish my seat, go to Muntu's party, and then we have a by-election, and then I probably can win again?
Nah, I wouldn't. Personally, I don't think that would be correct.
Why not? Because you're talking about the ultimate sacrifice in something that somebody believes in.
You must look at one. The resources you are going to spend in fighting to retake the constituency, which is already in your hands. Which resources you could use now to expand yourself and build more influence to take more constituencies next time when you go for an election. I don't think that that would be a correct strategy.
Would that be fair then to the parties they belong to currently? A number of them, I want to believe, belong to the FDC, because if you're saying you don't want to fight with the FDC and so on, would that be fair to them? to the party? Because if you're saying you have left together with the people that you're living with,
Yes.
but then they still hold the party card, they still subscribe to the party,
Yes.
they still hold their positions, mayorship, MP seats,
Yes.
because of their allegiance to the FDC, and then they are working with you, and those double standards, General.
No, what double standards?
Because if there's, you know, they are either here
Yes.
or the other side, one would think.
No, you see, to me, if FDC, for example, was willing that we sit and see how to manage that, we would be willing to sit and see how do we manage that.
What ideas do you have about managing
but,
it?
Well, we would sit and say, first identify those who are willing to move to a new formation. And maybe if FDC was willing, can say, we have released these ones. It's possible. But if you don't release them, you're also not to find out who they are. You're not discussing with those who, where they subscribe in terms of their leanings. The situation remains the way it would be. And it's not only with FDC, even in regard to, say, the movement and all that. The movement has got, for example, people who don't believe in it anymore. Quite a significant number.
Talking of which, now that you talk about, you know, the FDC, the NRM, and so on, you did say, among other things, that you're reaching out to different people.
Yes.
Different political shades, different individuals, and so on, to form some kind of coalition. How's that going?
I think it's fair advanced because we were in touch amongst each other. Like, I know, for example, we ourselves are in touch with the Honorable Chaguranyi, we're in touch with Honorable Mao, we're in touch with the Honorable Basarirwa. I know that Honorable Mao is in touch with Honorable Chaguranyi, is in touch with the Honorable Basarirwa, is in touch with the FDC. So in that regard, for us, we have clearly stated that any formation that invites us or convenes us, we will be there at whatever point they invite us to go and attend such a meeting. Then we can work out plans on how we can evolve it into cooperation in whatever direction or whatever, at whatever level we agree for it to how to be done. We are willing, because our history, at least those of us who are now in this new formation, in terms of cooperation, we are always out there. We do things open, in a transparent way, in our relations with other colleagues. We do not swing our weight around. Even when I was the party president, I didn't swing the weight of FDC within the opposition, because I knew the dangers that would create. I wanted us to create an atmosphere that would cause even the parties which were not as big as we were comfort, so we could focus on cooperation, which we succeeded in doing, only that eventually broke down when we were not able to get one candidate, which was sad.
Like you said, there's been efforts at this time and again, but it just never makes the cut. And part of the reason, pundits will say, it's because everyone wants to have it. That Muntu wants to have it, A wants to have it, B wants to have it, whoever else wants to have it, and so there never gets to be a proper gelling. What guarantee do you have that this time it will work?
We need to learn lessons.
You were part of the TDA, you saw how that fell apart. And
if we learn lessons from the failures of the past, then we won't repeat the same mistakes. Then we'll succeed. If we don't learn lessons, we will fail again. What other alternative is there?
And how critically will that get to be? Because, you know, every one of those different people you talk about says the same thing. We want to cooperate, we want to make it work. The same things were said before TDA, and everybody thought, all right, this time around it's going to work.
Yes.
And it just did not materialize, and it's it's deja vu, one would say.
You see, I only see two things. Either we are able to learn from our past mistakes and therefore succeed, or we are not able to learn and we fail. I don't see a third option. But if we understand the situation as it is and the dangers there are, I think we as leaders must take that responsibility to ensure that we learn lessons of the past. We can't afford to fail again.
Would, say, the people that are with you be willing to, let's all the different people you talked about, you know, you talked about yourself, you talked about the Honorable Chagulanyi, you talked about Honorable Mao, you have said you want to work with the FDC, and for that matter, the Honorable Muriat.
Yes.
If, as leaders, you get to agree on such an arrangement, would your followers, for example, back Anna Muriat and vice versa, and that kind of thing? Because, you know, you folks can get into a room, agree and say, all right, but then practically on ground, would that work?
Yeah, you see, once you have honesty in a discussion, there are many things which can happen. And I don't see any problem in that. Once we do analysis of a situation, and we think this is the best way forward, and we have got the will and the strength to make a decision, however tough it is, you do it. Problem is that most times I find that at times, as the Bible says, the body is willing, the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. You know, that's what happens. You know.
There are folks that have severally said that one of the positives about you is that you seem to have respectability within the army. Is that true? Do you have any kind of connections there, or are there people within the army who back you? You have had this talk, I'm sure.
I think maybe because of the experience people have, like when I'm maybe walking around, I meet some of the officers who salute me, some of the policemen salute me, others don't. I have no problem with that. Maybe when people see like soldiers saluting me, maybe that's why they derive that thinking. You know.
Do you think there's fear within folks in the army? Because you have seen how they've treated the people in the opposition.
There is fear.
It looks like it is
personal. You can read it from the actions.
So how can that be thwarted?
When we sit, we in the opposition, there are some of the things we must discuss, at least at the senior level. There are things we must discuss.
Talking of discussing,
how to manage this situation, because it's quite complex.
Talking of which, do you think there should be a discussion with President Museveni? There's been talk about dialogue and so on. Do you think there should be a dialogue between people like yourself and President Museveni? If so, what about?
I've always told colleagues, even when we were in the last formation, even now, if we don't concentrate on building our capabilities and taking advantage of the situation as it is, the desperation that is in the country and the desire for change, and turn it into real strength, and then we can exert that strength on the regime so that General Museveni finds that he no longer has any room for maneuver. Until we do that, any discussions, I think, will just be cosmetic.
So you're saying he should be pushed to the corner to talk?
Absolutely.
Do you talk personally with President Museveni?
To go in a negotiation? No.
When did you last talk to him?
Last time was 2004, as I mentioned today in the press conference. 2004. One-on-one.
If he invited you for a talk, would you say yes to
What would it be about? I was invited one time through an emissary whom he sent in 20... was it? I don't remember which. Yeah, maybe 2014, 2015. And I told him we have 4 conditions which we put as a coalition of the opposition. And until they are fulfilled, nothing can happen. And whatever discussions will be held, they will be structured. I cannot hold any discussions as an individual.
What are those conditions? Are they still the same? Because like I hear, he has been trying to reach out to different opposition figures to talk to them. Some of them have said no. So what would be your conditions if he reached out to you?
The parties will now have to sit again and review them.
No, you as an individual, since you don't have a party yet.
I think some of them are still relevant, like that there must be an agreed upon agenda, there must be a neutral arbiter. Well, in 2011, there was the issue of a review of 2011. After 2016, there was a review of 2016. I don't know whether that is still relevant or not. I don't know. That's something that would subject to discussion within the opposition. So those are still standing. I don't see how you can go into any negotiation without an agreed upon agenda. And to agree on who you'd have to have a neutral arbiter. Short of that, you'd just be wasting your time.
For those that read history, I, for example, read the little book, the 10-Point Program, a very little book with interesting content there. I loved the book when I read it. It espoused people that loved this country, people that wanted to serve this country, people who believed that this country can work. And if one said, for example, when they read that book, they see a Muntu today. A gentleman who is saying, this country can get better. We can work
Yes.
together to fix this country.
Yes.
But you see, the other people
Yes.
fell short of that.
Yes.
Heavily, a number of you have said that they
Yes.
went on the wayside.
Yes.
How do you convince Ugandans
Yes.
who would want to look at you that way? They say, you sound good, you're saying the right things. But then they will say, we have had those things said before, and the people who said them eventually veered off track.
That's the whole point. That's what actually some of us say. A country or any society that depends on the goodwill of any single leader is highly vulnerable. So society must create mechanisms for checking leaders. That's why some of us invest time and effort in building institutions and putting in place functioning systems. That's the only way you can be guaranteed that a leader, whether good or bad, is not going to be able to harm you, to affect you as a society. So we have to concentrate on that. People don't do that, and then they become skeptical and say, oh, we have heard that. Okay, if you have heard that before, what are you doing now to prevent yourself from being maneuvered again? That's what you have to concentrate on. Don't depend on Muntu, don't depend on Joel, don't depend on Museveni, don't depend on anybody, any human being. Because as human beings, we are vulnerable. Well, you can, and two, we can also be deceptive. You can be saying one thing, and then you do something else. But when you concentrate on building institutions and establishing functioning systems, and then also character in leaders, because character of leaders is very, very important. Because how did Museveni have to maneuver us? He would go in a meeting of 400 people. If you get 200 people who are firm, who will not budge, he cannot manipulate you. But if you find people who, he'll manipulate you. Even any other leader, even if it is not Museveni. If there are no strong institutions, check the person, you are highly vulnerable. So people should stop being skeptical and frustrated. Focus on doing the things that are necessary. Because even when Museveni goes, it will be an individual who will be a president, whoever it will be. So you are going to depend now again on the goodwill of one individual, and yet you are doing nothing else. You hear people say, parties can't work. Parties can't work. What makes them not work? Is it not us, the individuals, the politicians, who have made parties become what they are? So when they are not working, and now people think that it's individuals who should maybe take replacement for parties. But it's us, the same individuals, who've made the parties fail. So when we are operating outside parties, you think we are going to change in character or what? We have to build institutions. And we also have to keep talking about the building of character in leaders. Because when you have leaders who have got character, they will withstand wrong. And then that's how you strengthen institutions. That's how you establish functioning systems. Short of that, we will remain vulnerable. I am sorry to say.
What vision do you have for this good country of ours?
What do you mean?
And I know that's a fairly broad question. Some would
Yes.
even say premature, but I think it's a question that should come now. Now that you are thrusting yourself, saying now I want to form a political party, what do you envisage? What do you
really want to
see
see a
at the
country-
end of all of this?
A country that is stable, that is established on a strong foundation for sustainable economic growth and development, where there is equality before the law, where there is justice, where there are democratic practices, where there is zero tolerance on corruption, where you find that there are good governance principles basically which are embedded within the governance of a country. And a country where you find people at peace with themselves. That can't be done by any one individual. There must be an investment of effort from all people of goodwill. Fortunately, they're in the majority. Unfortunately, many of them don't want to participate in politics because I hear so many of them say, politics, we cannot step in there. It's a dirty game. So I keep asking myself, who's going to clean it up? And yet politics is at the core of human existence. Wherever anybody is, whether they are in their clinics, doctors, whether they are lawyers, in their farms, farmers, wherever you are. When politics goes wrong, it affects you, wherever you are. So we have to invest time and effort and make all the necessary sacrifices to fix the politics. Then we can advance as a people, as a society. Reach a point where even people don't care who the president is. because everything else is functioning. A country like which has had so many changes in government. You see a small country like Israel, amidst turmoil, but it's a democracy. Many times the governments break down, but things keep functioning. Italy has had, I think, I don't know how many governments have been in Italy in the last 50 years, maybe about 40-something times. But even when there is turmoil in governance, the rest keep functioning. Systems work. We have to do that. There's nothing anybody has done anywhere else in the world that we can't do. But we must apply our minds and hearts and souls to all that. The things we believe in, the things we desire to see happen. And on a sustained basis, keep doing that. Generation after generation. This is not rocket science.
If the next election happens in 2021, and I'm saying if because I know that there's a court case, there's an appeal to the Supreme Court. So if it does happen in 2021.
If what happens?
The next election.
Yes.
Do you intend to be on the ballot for presidency?
I keep on telling colleagues over and over, because even when we are discussing among ourselves, there are people who bring the issue of the leadership first. It creates its own complications. And there's nobody you can have the desire, but getting there is a totally different question.
Do you have the desire?
We'll get to that first. Let's go through this. I have the desire, otherwise how would I have run for a flag bearer? But desire is one thing. The reality of the matter is that your desire is not going to take you into the presidency unless you do a number of things. That's why, to me, I focus on the building of institutions and strengthening them and our capabilities around whatever institution we're in, or like incorporating as a larger formation. Now, when we have that capability, and if you happen to be favored by people and they say, now Muntu lead, or Joel lead, then that capability takes you into that position. But most times we focus only on the opposition and we don't do the necessary things that will take either Muntu or Joel into that position. And that's why I have a big difference with people. And that's why, to me, I'm comfortable even when I have a desire. If I compete and lose, I go behind the one who has won.
Is there enough time to do those things that you're talking about? This is 2018.
Let's do everything that we can. Where if time finds us, it's okay. Because the problem is to say, we can't do this now. You have to do it every hour that passes, every day, every week, every month. Do everything humanly possible. And when we get there, that's when we will know that now we are ready, or we are 70% ready, or 80% ready, or 90% ready. Rather than create a state of if you look at a task and you think it's too huge, at times it can put you in a state of paralysis in the mind and you say, we can't do this. But keep working, keep working, keep working until you reach that point. And then that's when you get to know whether you were ready or you are not ready. If you are not ready, certainly you won't take the what? You don't take power. You won't. Unless something happens, that is miraculous.
How do we build leaders that are credible? The reason I ask that is because there is a plethora of leaders.
Yes.
And I say this as a Ugandan, but there is a paucity of credible leaders. There is a very small percentage of those.
Yes.
How do we build those?
Yes.
Pretty much, we are talking politics.
Yes.
How do we build those? Because you see, again, there are people who will tell you, but wait a minute. They look at some folks within the opposition and they're wondering, are these the guys? Do they have, are they the credible alternative? And the reason they ask questions such as this is because they will now get to realize so and so has been bought by President Museveni, and you have seen the crossings left, right, and center. People who are saying something different, totally altogether, after they have been, made to cross to the other side, given positions and so on. Now they begin to sing praises. And so people keep thinking, but wait a minute, where are the people that we are looking for, the credible leaders?
How does that happen? Nature hates vacuums. There are many credible people in this country. There are more honest people than the corrupt in this country.
Without a doubt.
But the majority don't want to go into politics.
How do you convince them to join it when they see the way politics operates, that to win an election at whichever level you've got to do? lots of dubious things, and they see these things,
So
and they're saying, you know what, let me stick to private sector, or whatever the case might be.
How will that change? By accident? That has changed. But how?
How? You tell us.
That's the whole point. Because see, the moment the credible people remain out, they leave a vacuum. And it has to be filled. And once it's filled by people of the character you are talking about, then you who's on the side who has refused to go in there, you are running a business, they are squeezing the hair out of you because you bribe everywhere you go, and you are complaining.
Must everyone then join politics?
No,
Because
not
we
everyone.
need them in these different spheres anyway.
How many people are in politics? I don't think there are even more than 10,000 people. The critical ones, if you look at parliament, how many are there? 400. Cabinet, how many? 800. That's 500 people. So it can't be everybody. You want to tell me there are no 500 people in this country who are honest? They are there. But they don't want to go there, and they say, politics is that. So how will it be cleaned up?
Well, an interesting question to ruminate over as we take a break. When we get back for our last segment, we will give you a chance to get in touch with us, share your thoughts, ask some questions to the General, and we see how things go. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. You're still on the spot, and we're still with retired Major General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, talking about, the fact that he's putting together a new formation and a couple of other things. In this last segment, you can get in touch with us and ask questions, do share thoughts, and we see how things go. The number to call is going to run on your screen. Somebody on the line. Hello, good evening. Hello. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Jimmy.
I can't quite hear you. I don't know whether the problem is with you or our sound here, but if you can speak up kindly.
My name is Trinity.
Trinity, you said?
Yes, for this first very point, allow me congratulate Mugisha Muntu, having made it right to exit the group, that is the FDC party. It's quite a right decision, but I think when I look at this gentleman, he's very smart on a very black horse. But if it is not to my thinking, he must be frustrating FDC now. To me, what I'm thinking is that if you don't make it very clear, then FDC is dying totally.
You seem to be contradicting yourself. You said that he made a wise decision, but you're saying he's frustrating FDC. I'm not too sure what exactly you're communicating, sir. Hello, are you still there? Okay, please, when you call us, kindly lessen the volume on your TV set. I know some folks want to hear themselves. That's why there's a bit of a delay. But anyway, I thought that he would clarify wise decision, but then frustrating the FDC. And there are some folks that think that way, that you are hell-bent on making it difficult for the party to thrive. I've had some people say, I don't know who has hired you and all these different things, but you've had these comments.
But I can't understand how anybody would say that by us exiting, that we are trying to frustrate FDC. We are giving them space to operate.
But you're yanking away from their membership.
No,
you have invited their
let me
members
tell
to join
you, when I was the party leader, I know, for example, Nandara tried to start a party, which didn't work. But we put a committee to go and ask the people who were part of that party, Farmers' Party. We said, go ask them, what kind of grievances do they have? Are there grievances we can sort out? If there are grievances we can sort out, we can sort them out. We can discuss and sort them out. If there are grievances, issues that we cannot sort out, then they can also decide whatever they want to do. I can tell you, Joel, as we are sitting here, if that time they had sat and said, we are leaving, our reaction would have been different. If it required us to sit and see how to work out a separation, I would have done that and wouldn't have fought them. There is a time towards the 2016 election, there's a group of youth who appeared before a TV, I don't know whether it was NTV or NBS, I don't remember, who said they were going around the country to gather signatures for a vote of no confidence. The Mayanja, and there were about 3 or 4, Buembo, and about 3 or 4. So we sat in, I ensured that in the next NEC, I told colleagues, because I know how issues can become escalated out of control. I said, I have been told that there are youth who appeared before a TV and they said they were going around the country to gather signatures to move a vote of no confidence in me. I said, anybody who communicates to you, ensure that they are allowed space to go and ask whoever wants to put their signature on the document. When that document is ready, they'll bring it here in NEC and we will determine what next steps should be done. I asked Nandala, who was the Secretary General, I said, have you got a letter from them? He said, no. We asked the chairman's office, he said they know. I said, Nandala, send someone who can get to them. Find out if they know the processes of passing a vote of no confidence. If they don't know, guide them. Let them know what they are doing. Some of our youth who supported me said they should go and sort them out, meaning they're going to now go down there and fight. I said, the moment you do that, do you know how to wreck the party image? Let them go. If they get enough signatures, they'll come. Don't worry about that. For 3 months, they were all over the place. But they never came back to us with signatures. We never fought them. We never tried to undermine them or to attack them. But we have different styles, different methods. I think there's a problem in the methods of some of the leaders. Because Museveni walks all over us. You know, we are in the opposition fighting because we think there should be space for people to express themselves, express their rights and freedoms. And association is one of those rights. So even if you reach a point, if people can even, someone can say, we want separate, even if the reason is flimsy, but that's their choice. Why should you fight? Now, if we become that intolerant when we're in the opposition, what would happen if we're in power and we have weapons? What do you think would happen?
What kind of people are you looking to recruit into your party?
When? Oh, you mean the party which we are starting now is, we really want people who focus on how we can put in place, first, mechanisms for good governance in the country. Who believe in justice, who believe in fairness, who believe in equality before the law, who believe in equal opportunities, who believe that there should be zero tolerance to corruption, who believe that there are 40 million people in this country, the population is expanding, and we must create a firm foundation on the basis of which the future is taken care of. People who are honest. People who know that there must be systems of accountability in the management of national resources. But also people who hopefully have skills, because we are looking at leaders as well who have got skills in different things. And therefore, when a party is in power, whether alone, whether in cooperation with others, you need to have people who have skills to manage society to the desired end. So we will keep on giving a call, and people who believe in what we also believe is the best way on how to move the country, we link up together, we see how we can build a party. And also a party which believes that generation after generation of leaders, sets of leaders move, others go in, but the party maintains the same direction, because they must also subscribing the same ideological direction. In a conscious way, because I also know that there are considerations. Some are short-term, others are medium, others are long-term. When it comes to short-term objectives, all of us in the opposition are together, because the short-term objectives is to remove the regime. but also want people who join a party, not only for the removal of the regime, but also who look medium, long term. How do you transform society? You must have the capabilities of people who are able to focus that long term and keep on exerting effort in how to transform that society. Generation after generation. When one generation leaves, the next generation steps in, and it continues moving in the same direction. Look like at the Chinese Communist Party. At times you don't even know who the leaders are. But 70 years they have moved the country from being a third world, now it is the second economic power. In another 20, 15 years, maybe 15, 20 years, it's estimated that it may become the first. Leaders come and go. But the Chinese Communist Party focused on the national transformation program. It doesn't matter which leader comes in, they maintain the same direction.
So what's going to be your roadmap from now till, you said by 25th December, the party should have been launched?
Yeah.
What's going to be your roadmap? What are you going to be doing between now and then?
We make consultations with different people who would be interested. We will make those who want to become members. We interact with them, those who have technical expertise that they can put at our disposal. We also link up with those. And once we get leaders whom we'll be discussing with, we agree on structure, and then also know that the moment when we launch, we put in place a program between then, the launch, and the next 2 years. That one we'll have to discuss in detail with the teams that come in. We who moved from FDC, the others will be coming from, some may be from private sector, professionals, maybe people who have been independent, maybe people who have been in the movement who are frustrated who come over, and we all start afresh.
Let me rewind a little bit. A question I asked about members of parliament that
Yes.
Would want to work with you.
Yes.
And you said you don't advise that they cross
They
over,
relinquish, yes.
because that would mean them relinquishing their positions
Yeah.
in parliament.
Yeah.
How then is it going to happen with your party? Because I envisage a situation, if they keep coming for your activities and they pretty much abandon the activities of the FDC, whose card they hold, are they not going to be disciplined? And do you not envisage, another tumultuous kind of situation thereafter?
How will they be disciplined?
Because if they are, it's just like a member of the FDC attending, say, caucus activities and that kind of thing, because then the allegiance has shifted, and every party constitution has ways of disciplining members who are veering off track.
See, the only discipline a party can carry out against such a member is to expel them. And the moment you expel them, they remain independent in parliament.
So that's your plan?
No, I'm saying that depends on the parties themselves. Because you may even decide and say, you know what, let's not remain in this situation. You can even use ways of ensuring that you release them from the party. If you want, you can say, you apply if you want to leave, and we will expel you, and you become an independent. Then you can go and do whatever else you want to do, and then we can also do whatever we want to do. That's also another way.
As you're having all this going on, of course, your major, challenge, if you like, and you have said that, look, you want to focus on how President Museveni exits. Yes. There are people who think he fears what could happen thereafter, that he could be hounded, him, his family, and all of that. Do you think there can be a safe way of giving him or securing an exit for him? That has happened in several other countries. It happened for Moi, Zimbabwe, well, a little bit different, but kind of similar. Is that something that you have in mind, that perhaps his exit should be safeguarded? Because sometimes when he has folks in the opposition, it looks like they're out to get him. And some pundits have said maybe that's why he clings a lot more, because he fears what could happen.
I think that's a question that we as the opposition leaders need to discuss amongst ourselves and evolve a common position. I think it would be better that way. Because if we agree and eventually everybody gets a feeling that we all are on the same page, we are in the same agreement as what to do, I think it helps a lot, and it also gives more confidence to those who are in the regime.
Do you think he should in any way be involved in such a deliberation?
Who?
President Museveni.
Yeah, but before he even gets into such a deliberation, we ourselves must first build a consensus on what we think should happen.
There are some people
And you see, once you do that, you don't now depend on his goodwill, whether he wants to go or he doesn't want to go. You keep on building your capabilities, which when you exert on him and he's under pressure, he has no room for maneuver, then he also knows that there is a fallback position. You cannot not do only one thing.
Talking about coalition, which some folks have been talking about, there are those who think that as you try and reach out to the different people that you're reaching out to,
Yes.
that there should be one joint political party of sorts.
Yes.
There's different groupings. Kenya did it eventually,
Yes.
Uhuru and his deputy Ruto, and they eventually formed a party.
Yes.
Is that something you're eyeing as well, or are you saying you have your own entity, other folks come with their own entities, and then you have a coalition of sorts? We don't necessarily have to merge or that kind of thing.
Actually, the Kenyan one, they are those where you find one large entity, but with component parts, many parties in one entity. Like you can see, like I think Orange Democratic Movement has got the Wiper, the one of Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yeah, those ones remained a coalition, but Uhuru and his deputy Ruto decided to form a party eventually.
I didn't know that. But initially they came in as
Yeah,
parties.
sure.
So when they reached that, they dissolved. But when they came together, they were entities. That can be a choice of those who join. But for example, even now, I know like now, I don't think the traditional parties can dissolve themselves. So the reality of the matter is that I think we'll have to come into some form of work out a framework for cooperation that caters for parties, but also influential individuals. And then once they work out mechanisms and down the road they decide to dissolve themselves, perfectly fine. There will be no problem with that. But if they decide not to dissolve themselves, then they can still work as entities, as parties, including individuals. That's how TDA was shaped. And it was working. The only problem is that when we failed to get one flag bearer, we collapsed. That's the biggest, the most sad story.
Do you think there's trust, within the opposition, the folks that you're speaking to? Because you talk about the collapse of TDA. Some people will tell you one of the reasons it collapsed, as you say,
Yes.
is there was mistrust, Aside from, yes, everybody wants it for their own,
Yes.
but there was the feeling, this one is spying on the other and sending information on the other side, and that can, even at the very basic level, crumble this thing. Do you feel there is trust among you people?
We must work out mechanisms of how to immunize ourselves, but also on how to build trust. Everything is dependent on the capabilities that we develop within ourselves. Because we are living in a very tough world. You should expect anything to happen smoothly. No. We are operating in a hostile environment. We are operating in an environment where there is a dictatorship that wants to survive. And it uses all kinds of methods to destabilize organizations, to destabilize individuals. So we must develop the capability first to detect what is true, what is not true, to know how to deal with each other, and therefore to know how to build trust, and therefore also build countermeasures against the methods which the regime uses. If we don't do that, we will remain vulnerable.
Like you have said, there are folks that you're speaking to locally. Are there folks or entities you're speaking to globally? Because much as Uganda is a sovereign state, it is a part of the global community, and it should hold other entities or counties accountable and vice versa. Are there any folks you're trying to engage?
Our focus so far has been here, locally, and we intend it to be so for a while.
So you don't at any one point think, you should probably, reach out to anybody internationally and say how can, maybe be of help to us, or I don't know, whatever the case might be.
My experience has been that at least in the past, most times the outside actors always want to know what is happening on the ground. If you build capabilities on the ground, most times it causes doors to open. But if you haven't built capabilities on the ground, you can go knocking on doors, and even when you enter those doors, you just talk, and many times you will not get good outcomes. But when you concentrate on the ground and there is impact, yes, doors open. Doors definitely open.
Major General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you. Wish you the best.
Thank you, and you too.
Yep.
Well, that's it for today's edition of On the Spot. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joel Senyonyi, and from the rest of the team, good evening.